For more insight on the upcoming debate and the presidential election, let's bring in Larry Sabato. He's the director of the University of Virginia's Center for Politics and a politics professor. So, Larry, Vice President Biden appears to have a steady lead in this presidential race so far. However, the former vice president's national lead is bigger than his lead in several crucial battleground states. There are a lot of people now who are sort of suggesting that this race is actually closer than some of the polls suggest. Now, I don't know if that's just a fear of repeating what we saw in 2016, where for a lot of people, President Trump's victory came as a bit of a surprise, or if we should really be paying more attention to these state polls. And if we do that, then it does appear that the race is still neck and neck.
Well, actually, you summarized it well. People who focus on the national numbers, and it's natural to do that, see that Biden is well ahead, though I must say the polls that have him leading by 12%, 14%, 16%, this is laughable. Remember, Barack Obama got the largest percentage a Democrat has had since Lyndon Johnson in 1964 in his landslide against Barry Goldwater, and Obama won by 7 percentage points. It'll be somewhere around there if everything goes perfectly for Biden. But you put your finger on it. The states that are key, the states that are swing, are generally much closer than the national average. It doesn't mean it's a squeaker. By no means do we see that yet in the polling numbers. Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, especially Michigan and Wisconsin, are showing up well for Biden. He's leading in places that Hillary Clinton didn't win, like Arizona, although the margin is thin there. And we could go through the states, but the point is clear. You have to focus on the swing states, and the Biden margin can easily be noticed, and yet, with this many days to the election, and every day in the Trump term, is an eternity, you can't rule out things happening that will change the reality. 4 years ago, Jim Comey had not reopened his investigation against Hillary Clinton, which is what beat her. There's no question about it. That's what beat her. Without him reopening that investigation, we'd be talking about Hillary Clinton's reelection right now.
Well, I tell you, living in Pennsylvania, I feel like the prettiest girl at the ball because all the candidates are coming here to ask us out for a dance, right? So certainly Pennsylvania is a key battleground state, but there are others. Which states do you think the president's path to any sort of victory, which states does that path hinge on?
Now, that's a good question, because if there is a semi-consensus right now, it's that the closest states, the toss-up states, where the polls are showing a dead tie, really, are Iowa, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and also the 2nd District of Maine, which gets 1 electoral vote. When you put those together, you see one thing. Donald Trump carried all of them in 2016. Because they're tied, and because they have a natural tendency to be attracted to Trump's issues and persona, I'd say he's at least a slight favorite in a tie in most of them. Maybe all of them, but at least most of them. Even though the polling averages may have Biden up 1, 2, or 3, that kind of lead is minimal and can disappear easily depending on the turnout patterns. So Trump needs to get all of them, and then he still needs to win. As you mentioned, Pennsylvania would be the obvious one. Wisconsin and Michigan seem to be more firmly in Biden's camp this time, and probably Arizona. Essentially, you know what Trump has done? Trump has eliminated broadening his coalition really from the day he was sworn in. It's never changed. He's focused on the base. To win, he knows he's not going to win the popular vote. He doesn't need to win the popular vote. He's trying to reassemble the same group of voters who voted for him the last time, thinking it'll be enough to get him across 270. And after all, he got 306 electoral votes. He can fritter some away. That's his theory of the election, whether he ever articulates it.
Larry, the Center for Politics has written about how anger shapes American politics. And we've talked a lot about voter anger, whether it's anger at some of the things that President Trump has done, or whether it's anger at Joe Biden and an extension of former President Barack Obama. I struggle to understand what is different in 2020 or 2016 about fueling that anger and using some of these dog whistles, such as President Trump has used, that is different than the dog whistles that George Wallace used in the 1960s. It's so hard to sort of see Americans rejecting George Wallace back then and then embracing some of the things that the president has said now. What's changed?
Well, of course, Wallace was running as an independent. However, he got 13.5% of the national vote and 46 electoral votes. He nearly threw the election between Nixon and Humphrey into the House of Representatives. So don't minimize what he did. Sadly, I think anybody who studies American history and American politics would tell you if there is one issue that links America from the very beginning to the current day, it's race. People don't want to face up to that, but it's true. It's race. And race is helping Donald Trump. It helped him in 2016. It's helping him in 2020. It helped him throughout his administration. I'm talking to you from Charlottesville, and there have been plenty of Charlottesvilles, unfortunately, during the past 4 years. So that is what I would suggest to you hasn't changed. What has changed are the demographics. When Wallace ran, about 12% of the voters were non-white. In other words, whites were 85, 88% of the vote cast then. Now it's 70% white and 30% all minorities added together. So the demographics have changed, and that means there's a bigger cost to using race as a spear in American politics.
During the last election, what caught a lot of pollsters off guard is that there were very many people who did not vote before who came out to vote for President Trump. And frankly, something very similar happened with Barack Obama as well. And I know that the Trump campaign is sort of suggesting that there are people out there, just like last time around, that the pollsters just can't get their hands on. But we know that already 44 million people have voted. They've mailed their votes. Early voting has started. What does that tell you about this year's turnout?
Oh, I think it's going to be a healthy turnout. I wouldn't want to put a percentage on it. Most estimates are around 150 million people. Last time it was 137 million. We'll see. Maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe it's smaller given the pandemic. But I'll tell you what it says to me in relation to tonight. 44 million, and maybe by 7 p.m. it'll be 46 million. Who knows? They're out of the picture. They can tune in the debate for entertainment purposes or informational purposes, but they've cast their vote. You can't go back into the voter registrar and say, I watched that debate. It changed my mind. I'd like my vote back, please. And registrars will tell you people do that. And they're shocked when they learn they can't get the vote back.
That is hilarious. I like how we had this serious conversation, but you left us on a mildly disturbing, humorous note.
There is an antecedent to that, Larry and Anne-Marie. You know me with my pop culture nerdiness. There was an old Eddie Murphy joke back in the early 1980s when Reverend Jesse Jackson was running for president. Kids will not remember that Jesse Jackson ran for president, and Eddie Murphy joked about that people went to the voting booths, they were drunk, and as a goof, they said, let's vote for Jesse Jackson. And the next morning, headline, Jesse Jackson elected president of the United States. And people were like, wait, he won? I didn't realize it was for real.
Well,
see,
there's some
every
of that in
every good joke has a drop of truth.
That's right.
Yeah, right, exactly. Larry Sabato, always great talking to you. Thank you so much, sir.
I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.